6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was burning, not with the fires of destruction, but with the flames of revolution. From the outer rim to the core worlds, species that had been enslaved for centuries were fighting for their freedom. Admiral Do Hyun stood on the bridge of his new flagship, Terra's Hope, watching as another former Velkan world declared its independence. His hair had gone gray during the long war, but his eyes still held the same determination that had started it all. "That makes 87 free worlds," reported Commander Yuna, who had been promoted after her communication work proved crucial to the rebellion's success. "The Kethai have officially established their own government. They're calling it the Free Republic of Kethai. Any word from the Velkan homeworld?" Do Hyun asked. "Nothing official. But our spies report that War Marshal Kethran has been removed from command. The High Council is in chaos," Do Hyun nodded. The once mighty Velkan Empire was collapsing faster than anyone had expected. When humanity refused to surrender, it had shown every enslaved species that the Velkans were not invincible. The revolution had spread like wildfire. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Min Seo from the communications station, "we're receiving a message from the Velkan capital. It's marked as a diplomatic request." Do Hyun raised an eyebrow. "After all this time, they want to talk?" "Apparently. The message is from someone called Prime Counselor Rathine. She's requesting a meeting to discuss peace terms." Do Hyun looked around his bridge at the crew that had helped change the galaxy. Many of them were the same people who had escaped from Velkan space in a damaged ship months ago. Now they commanded a growing alliance of free worlds. "Set a course for the neutral zone," he ordered. "It's time to see what the Velkans have to say." The meeting took place on a small space station that had once been a Velkan military base. Now it belonged to the Morden, a species that had broken free 3 months earlier. The station's commander, a tall blue-skinned alien named Korval, greeted the human delegation personally. "Admiral Do Hyun," Korval said in heavily accented but understandable English, "your species has given mine something we had forgotten. Hope. We just reminded you that freedom is worth fighting for," Do Hyun replied. The meeting room was large and circular, with seats arranged around a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. More than half of the former Velkan territories were now marked in different colors, representing free worlds or active rebellions. Prime Counselor Rathine entered with only 2 guards. She was younger than the ancient High Counselor who had condemned humanity months earlier, and she looked tired. The weight of a collapsing empire showed in her eyes. "Admiral Do Hyun," she said, taking her seat across from him, "we meet under very different circumstances than expected." "That tends to happen when you underestimate humans," Do Hyun replied. Rathine studied him for a moment. "You realize what you have done? The Velkan Empire brought order to this galaxy for 2,000 years. Now there is chaos everywhere." "No," said Dr. Junho, humanity's new cultural analyst who had joined the diplomatic team. "There is freedom everywhere. There's a difference. Freedom leads to war," Rathine argued. "Without the Empire to maintain order, these species will fight each other." "Maybe," Do Hyun admitted, "but that will be their choice. Slavery is not peace, Counselor. It's just delayed conflict." Rathine activated the holographic display showing images of fighting throughout the galaxy. "Look at what your freedom has brought. Millions dead in these rebellions." Engineer Minseo, who had been studying the display, spoke up. "How many millions died building your empire? How many species were wiped out because they refused to surrender?" "That was different," Rathine said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Was it?" Do Hyun asked. "Or are you just angry that this time the slaves won?" The room fell silent. Finally, Rathine spoke again. "What do you want? The complete destruction of the Velkan people?" Do Hyun leaned forward. "We want what we've always wanted. The right to be free, and the right for everyone else to be free too. And if we refuse, then the rebellions continue until your empire no longer exists," Do Hyun said simply. "But it doesn't have to be that way." He activated his own holographic display showing a different map of the galaxy. This one was marked with green zones representing something new. "We're proposing something called the Terran Commonwealth," Do Hyun explained. "A voluntary alliance of free worlds. Each species governs itself, but we work together for mutual defense and trade." Rathine stared at the display. "You would include Velkan worlds in this Commonwealth?" "If they want to join," Do Hyun said. "But only as equals, not as rulers. Impossible. The Velkan people would never accept being equal to their former subjects. Then they'll learn, said Admiral Hyjin, who had remained quiet until now, or they'll be left behind by the rest of the galaxy. Rathine stood up slowly. You ask us to abandon everything we are. We ask you to become something better, Do-hyun replied. The negotiations continued for 3 days. Rathine was in constant communication with what remained of the Velkan government. Meanwhile, representatives from dozens of newly free species arrived to add their voices to the discussions. The Kethai wanted guarantees that the Velkans would never again be allowed to build a military empire. The Morden demanded reparations for centuries of forced labor. The Veltari, who had been the first to rebel after hearing humanity's message, wanted Velkan war criminals put on trial. Through it all, Do-hyun and his team worked to find compromises that would satisfy everyone without destroying the chance for peace. On the final day, Rathine made her decision. The Velkan Council has agreed to your terms, she announced. We will dissolve the Empire and join your Commonwealth as equal members. Our military fleets will be reduced and placed under joint command. Our former subject worlds will receive reparations. She paused, looking directly at Do-hyun. But I want you to know something, human. You have not just defeated an empire. You have ended an era. For 2,000 years, the galaxy knew order and stability. Now it will know chaos and uncertainty. And freedom, Do-hyun added. Don't forget freedom. We shall see if freedom is worth the price, Rathine said. 1 year later, Admiral Do-hyun stood on the observation deck of Terra Station, the new headquarters of the Terran Commonwealth. Through the massive windows, he could see ships from dozens of different species coming and going in peaceful trade. The galaxy was indeed more chaotic now. There were still conflicts between some species, trade disputes, and political arguments. But there were also new alliances, new friendships, and new possibilities that had never existed under Velkan rule. Any regrets? Asked Admiral Hyjin, joining him at the window. Do-hyun thought about all the humans who had died in the war. He thought about Tae-min, who had sacrificed himself so that others could escape. He thought about the thousands of beings from dozens of species who had died fighting for freedom. None, he said finally. We did what humans do. We refused to kneel. A message alert chimed on his communication device. It was from Earth, where Dr. Boram was leading a joint research project with scientists from 12 different species. They were working on new technologies that would benefit everyone, not just one dominant empire. Another message came from the Kethai homeworld, where former Velkan slaves were building their first democratically elected government. They had named their capital city Hope, after the human ship that had brought news of the rebellion. A third message was from the edge of the galaxy, where human exploration ships were making contact with species that had never heard of the Velkan Empire. They were being greeted as friends and allies, not conquerors. Do you think it will last? Hyjin asked. This commonwealth we've built? Do-hyun watched as a small human freighter docked next to a massive Veltari passenger liner. The two crews greeted each other like old friends, sharing stories and trading goods from their different worlds. It will last as long as people remember what freedom costs, he said, and as long as there are humans around to remind them. In the distance, a new ship was approaching the station. Its design was unlike anything Do-hyun had seen before, a hybrid of human, Kethai, and Morden technology working together. The crew would probably be just as mixed, with beings from different worlds working side by side. It was exactly what Do-hyun had hoped for when he first refused to bow to the Velkans. Not conquest, not dominance, but cooperation. Not subjects and rulers, but partners and friends. The galaxy was free, and for the first time in 2,000 years, anything was possible. As he watched the strange new ship dock at the station, Do-hyun smiled. Humans had stumbled into a galactic empire by accident, but they had chosen to change it on purpose, and that, he thought, was the most human thing of all. The Velkan invasion fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system, like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. War Marshal Kethron commanded from his flagship, a massive vessel called Eternal Dominion that was larger than most human cities. Scan the system, he ordered. Show me their pathetic defenses. His tactical officer, a younger Velkan named Zephi, studied the readings with confusion. Sir, I'm only detecting about 300 human vessels. Most of them are hidden in the asteroid belt. War Marshal Kethron made that scraping laugh. 300 ships against our 3,000? These humans are even more foolish than I thought. He opened a communication channel that would reach every human vessel in the system. People of Earth, this is War Marshal Kethron of the Velkan Empire. You have defied our authority and humiliated our forces. For this crime, your world will be destroyed. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Admiral Hyjin's voice came back immediately. This is Admiral Hyjin of the Earth Defense Force. Our answer is the same as it was before, no. Then you will die as fools. The Velkan fleet began moving toward Earth in perfect formation. Each ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. They had done this hundreds of times before on hundreds of worlds. But as they passed through the asteroid belt, strange things started happening. Captain Dongwu commanded a group of converted mining ships hiding among the rocks. His vessels looked like cargo haulers, but they had been modified with weapons salvaged from asteroid mining equipment. Wait for it, he whispered to his crew as the Velkan ships passed nearby. Wait for it. When the enemy fleet was right in the middle of the asteroids, Dongwu gave the signal. Dozens of hidden human ships activated their mining lasers, but instead of cutting rocks, they cut into Velkan hulls. The aliens were caught completely off guard. Their sensors had dismissed the mining ships as harmless debris. Now those same ships were tearing holes in their formation. Return fire, War Marshal Kethron ordered. But the human ships were already moving, weaving between asteroids too quickly for the larger Velkan vessels to follow. When the aliens tried to pursue, they found themselves flying into carefully placed explosive charges that the humans had been setting for months. Sir, Tactical Officer Zephi reported, we've lost 12 ships and our formation is breaking apart. War Marshal Kethron couldn't believe it. 12 ships lost to primitive mining equipment? Reform ranks. Proceed to Earth. But the humans weren't done. As the Velkan fleet regrouped, Commander Sunhee activated the next phase of Earth's defense. She commanded a group of civilian transport ships that had been evacuating people from Earth's cities. But the evacuations were a trick. Instead of moving people to safety, the transports were spreading them throughout the solar system to make it harder for the Velkans to target civilians, and each transport carried a surprise. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Sunhee announced. Her message went out not just to the Velkan fleet, but to every enslaved species in their empire. This is Commander Sunhee of Earth. We are humans, and we refuse to bow to tyrants. We call on every enslaved species in the galaxy to stand up and fight for freedom. Today, the age of Velkan rule ends. The message was broadcast in hundreds of languages, using technology reverse-engineered from Velkan systems. It would reach across the galaxy faster than any fleet could travel. War Marshal Kethron was furious. Silence their transmissions. But every time his ships destroyed one human transmitter, another one activated. The humans had hidden broadcasting equipment throughout their solar system. As the Velkan fleet approached Earth itself, they ran into the planet's main defenses. Admiral Do-hyun commanded the core battle group from his new ship, Taiman's Revenge, named after their friend who had died helping them escape. All ships, remember the plan? Do-hyun said over the communication system. We can't match their firepower, so we don't try. We hit them where they don't expect it and run before they can hit back. The human ships attacked in small groups, using tactics that made no sense to the Velkans. Instead of forming battle lines, they swarmed like angry insects. Instead of targeting the enemy's strongest ships, they went after support vessels and communication arrays. Lieutenant Kyung-soo commanded a fast attack ship called David Sling. His job was to get close enough to Velkan command ships to plant special devices that Hana had designed. Technical specialist Hana, are you ready? He asked. Hana was strapped into the co-pilot seat holding a device that looked like a cross between a computer and a bomb. Ready, sir. Just get me close enough to touch their hull. Kyung-soo piloted their small ship through a storm of alien weapons fire. The Velkans were shooting at everything that moved, but they couldn't hit a target that moved like a human pilot. Randomly, desperately, and with no regard for proper flying techniques. There, Hana pointed at a large Velkan cruiser. That's their coordination ship. Kyung-soo flew their ship directly at the alien vessel, dodging weapons fire until they were close enough to almost touch the enemy hull. Hana reached out with a mechanical arm and attached her device to the Velkan ship. Device planted. Get us out of here. As they flew away, Hana activated her creation. The device was designed to hack into Velkan computer systems and turn them against each other. Within minutes, the coordination ship was sending confused orders to the rest of the fleet. Velkin ships began firing at each other. Their formation collapsed as captains tried to figure out which orders were real and which were from the human virus. Impossible, War Marshal Keithron roared. How are they doing this? Tactical Officer Zephi looked terrified. Sir, their tactics make no sense. They're not following any known military doctrine. Because we're not fighting a normal war, Admiral Hyjin said, her voice coming through the Velkin communication system. Somehow the humans had hacked into their secure channels. We're fighting for our lives. And desperate people don't follow rules. The battle raged for hours. The Velkins had more ships and better weapons, but they couldn't adapt to human tactics. Every time they thought they understood what the humans were doing, the humans did something different. Human ships used garbage as weapons, launching clouds of debris that confused alien sensors. They used their own damaged vessels as guided missiles, ramming them into enemy ships. They even used music as a weapon, broadcasting Earth songs that somehow interfered with Velkin communication systems. But the humans were taking losses too. For every Velkin ship they destroyed, they lost 3 of their own. Earth's defenders were running out of ships and ammunition. Then something unexpected happened. Sir, Zephi reported to War Marshal Kethron, we're receiving messages from across the Empire. Multiple species are rebelling. The Kethai, the Morden, the Veltari, they're all attacking our garrison fleets. War Marshal Kethron felt cold. How many rebellions? 47 systems, sir, and more starting every hour. On Earth, Yuna was monitoring communications across the galaxy. She turned to Admiral Hyjin with tears in her eyes. Admiral, it's working. Our message reached them. Species that have been slaves for centuries are fighting back. Admiral Hyjin smiled grimly. Then our people haven't died for nothing. The battle was far from over, but something had changed. The Velkins were no longer just fighting to destroy Earth. They were fighting to save their empire from collapsing. War Marshal Kethron made a decision that shocked his own officers. Pull back to defensive positions. We need to end this quickly. Sir? Zephi asked in confusion. Don't you understand? War Marshal Kethron said. These humans haven't just refused to surrender. They've taught the galaxy how to fight back. As the Velkin fleet regrouped, the surviving human ships prepared for the final assault. They were outnumbered worse than ever, but they had accomplished something impossible. They had shown the galaxy that the Velkins could bleed. Admiral Do-hyun looked at Earth, still blue and beautiful despite the battle raging around it. His homeworld was still in danger, but it was no longer alone. Across the galaxy, 100 different species were learning what it meant to be free. The real war was just beginning. The Perseverance limped into Earth orbit 6 weeks later, held together by spare parts and determination. Admiral Hyjin was waiting for them aboard the space station, along with every important military leader and scientist on Earth. Do-hyun looked terrible. The escape had cost them more than just Tae-min. The stress of keeping their damaged ship running had worn down the entire crew. But they were alive, and they brought information that could save humanity. Report, Captain, Admiral Hyjin said as soon as Do-hyun stepped off his ship. We found them, Admiral, and they're coming. Do-hyun told them everything. The size of the Velkin Empire, their advanced technology, their attitude toward other species. When he finished, the room was silent. General A-Ra was the first to speak. How long do we have? Maybe a year, Mi-young said. It will take them time to organize a fleet big enough to make an example of Earth, but they will come. How many ships? Asked Admiral Hyjin. Thousands, Do-hyun replied. Each one bigger and more powerful than anything we have. Dr. Boram, Earth's chief scientist, leaned forward. Did you manage to bring back any of their technology? Mi-young nodded and handed him a small device. I built this from Velkin components. It's crude, but it shows how their systems work. Boram examined the device with excitement. This is incredible. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. But it's based on the same principles. We might be able to adapt some of it. Adapt it for what? General A-Ra asked. They have thousands of ships. We have maybe 50 vessels that could fight in space, and most of those are converted cargo haulers. Do-hyun stood up. General, we can't fight them the way they expect us to fight. What do you mean? The Velkins have been winning for 2,000 years. They expect enemies to line up in neat formations and shoot at each other until one side dies. They don't know how to handle opponents who fight dirty. Admiral Hyojin raised an eyebrow. You want us to fight dirty against the most powerful empire in the galaxy? I want us to fight like humans, Do-hyun said. We're smaller, weaker, and have worse technology. But we're also desperate, angry, and we don't follow their rules. Over the next few months, Earth transformed itself into a fortress. But not the kind of fortress the Velkans would expect. Jin Ho and Bo-Ram worked together to reverse engineer Velkan technology. They couldn't build ships as powerful as the aliens, but they could build ships that were unpredictable. Human vessels started using random movement patterns and unconventional weapons. General Ara restructured Earth's military around guerrilla tactics. Instead of building a few large ships, they built hundreds of small, fast vessels. Each one could hit hard and disappear before the enemy could respond. Woo Jin and Yoonji developed new weapons based on human creativity rather than raw power. They built devices that could confuse alien sensors, weapons that could turn enemy technology against itself, and traps that would only trigger when large fleets approached. But the most important work was being done by Yuna, their communications expert. She had been studying the messages Do-hyun's crew had intercepted during their escape. Admiral, Yuna reported during one of their daily meetings. The Velkans are having problems. What kind of problems? News of our escape has spread throughout their empire. Some of their subject species are asking questions they've never asked before. Admiral Hyojin leaned back in her chair. Such as? If humans can say no to the Velkans, why can't we? 3 different species have started small rebellions. The Velkans are having to send ships to put them down. Do-hyun smiled for the first time in months. So our escape did more than just warn Earth, it gave their slaves hope. Exactly. And the Velkans don't know how to handle hope. They're used to ruling through fear. As the months passed, Earth's preparations continued. They turned the asteroid belt into a maze of hidden weapons and sensor stations. They built secret bases on the far side of the moon and in the clouds of Venus. Every human settlement became a potential fortress. But they also prepared for something else. They prepared to inspire. Yuna and her team worked on ways to broadcast messages throughout the galaxy. If humanity was going to die, they would make sure every enslaved species knew that someone had tried to stand up to the Velkans. We can't match their firepower, Admiral Hyojin said during their final planning meeting, but we can make sure our example lives on. Do-hyun, now promoted to Admiral, looked at the holographic display showing Earth's defenses. It wasn't much compared to a Velkan invasion fleet, but it was clever. Every trap, every weapon, every hiding place had been designed by humans who refused to give up. Admiral, Mi-young said, entering the meeting room. Long-range sensors are picking up something. Everyone turned to look at her. They had been waiting for this moment for almost a year. Hyperspace signatures, Mi-young continued. Lots of them. They're coming. Admiral Hyojin stood up slowly. How many ships? We're still counting, but it looks like at least 2,000. Maybe more. The room fell quiet. 2,000 ships against a few hundred human vessels. It should have been hopeless. But Do-hyun looked around the table at his fellow humans and felt something he hadn't expected to feel. He felt proud. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, we always knew this day would come. The most powerful empire in the galaxy is coming to destroy us because we refuse to kneel to them. He stood up and looked out the window at Earth, beautiful and blue in the darkness of space. Our ancestors faced seemingly impossible odds before. They faced ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have wiped them out. But they survived because they had something their enemies didn't have. What's that? General Ara asked. They had each other, and they never gave up. Admiral Hyojin activated the communication system that would reach every human settlement in the solar system. This is Admiral Hyojin to all Earth forces. The enemy is approaching. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and alone. But we are human. We are the species that looked at fire and decided to tame it. We are the species that looked at the ocean and decided to cross it. We are the species that looked at the sky and decided to fly. Her voice carried to every ship, every station, every base where humans waited for battle. Today, we look at the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and we decide not to bow. Today we show the universe what humans are made of. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for every enslaved species that dreams of freedom. She paused for a moment, then continued. All ships, prepare for battle. And remember, we may be the smallest species in this fight, but we're also the only one that chose to be here. As alarms sounded throughout the solar system, Do-hyun felt something he hadn't felt since their escape from Velkan space. He felt hope. The Vulcans were coming with thousands of ships and superior technology, but they had made one crucial mistake. They had given humanity time to prepare, and humans were very good at making the most of time. 3 days passed before the Vulcans made their decision. Do-Hyun and his crew were brought to a smaller room where High Counselor Veltar waited with several other council members. War Marshal Kethron stood beside them, his hand resting on his weapon. "We have decided," High Counselor Veltar announced. "Your world will be destroyed as an example to others who might think of refusing us. But first we will study you." Do-Hyun felt cold inside, but he kept his voice steady. "Study us? Chief Scientist Yentl will examine your minds to understand how a species can be so foolish," the High Counselor explained. "We must learn why you refuse to accept the natural order." A new alien entered the room. This one was different from the soldiers. It was tall and thin, with pale skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything. Its hands ended in long fingers that moved like spider legs. "These are the creatures that said no?" Chief Scientist Yentl asked. Its voice was soft but somehow more frightening than the soldiers' roars. "How fascinating. I will enjoy learning what makes them so broken." "You're the ones who are broken," Jaewon said suddenly. "You've forgotten what it means to be free." Chief Scientist Yentl turned those large eyes toward him. "Freedom is an illusion. There is only order and chaos. We represent order." "No," Nari said. "You represent fear dressed up as order." The scientist made notes on a device that floated beside it. "Excellent. They truly believe their delusions. This will be most educational." As guards prepared to take them away again, Do-Hyun caught Mi-young's eye. She nodded slightly. During their 3 days in the cell, they had been planning. It was a desperate plan with almost no chance of success, but it was better than giving up. They were taken to a laboratory filled with strange machines. The walls were covered with screens showing pictures of different alien brains. In the center of the room was a chair surrounded by metal arms with sharp tools. "Who will be first?" Chief Scientist Yentl asked. "I will," Do-Hyun said, stepping forward. But as the guards moved to grab him, Sora suddenly collapsed. She fell to the floor, shaking and making choking sounds. "What's wrong with it?" one of the guards asked. "She's having a medical emergency," Jaewon shouted, dropping to his knees beside her. "Please, we need to help her." Chief Scientist Yentl pushed the guards aside. "Interesting. Move her to the medical scanner." As the aliens focused on Sora, Da-eun and Chan-woo struck. Da-eun was their security expert, and Chan-woo was their pilot. They had been studying the alien guards for 3 days, learning their weaknesses. The Vulcans were strong and had advanced weapons, but they had been in charge for so long that they expected everyone to obey them. They weren't ready for humans who fought dirty. Da-eun grabbed a guard's weapon while Chan-woo tackled another one. Mi-young ran to the laboratory's control panel and began working frantically. She had memorized the alien symbols over the past 3 days. "Stop them!" Chief Scientist Yentl screamed. But the humans moved like they were desperate because they were. Do-Hyun fought 2 guards at once while Taemin helped Da-eun with the weapons. Sora stopped pretending to be sick and joined the fight. "I'm in their security system," Mi-young shouted. "But I can't hold it long." "How much time do you need?" Do-Hyun asked, dodging an alien weapon beam. 10 minutes to reach our ship. 5 more to start the engines." "Then we better move fast." The humans ran through corridors filled with surprised aliens. The Vulcans had sensors and weapons everywhere, but their security was designed to keep subjects in line, not to stop a desperate escape attempt. Daein used the stolen weapons to blast open doors while Chan-woo led them toward the landing bay where their ship waited. Behind them, alarms screamed and alien voices shouted orders. "There!" Taemin pointed ahead. "The landing bay!" But as they reached the entrance, a squad of Vulcan soldiers appeared to block their path. These were better armed and ready for a fight. "Surrender now and your deaths will be quick," the squad leader commanded. "Counter-offer," Do-Hyun replied, breathing hard. "Get out of our way and we won't have to hurt you." The alien soldiers made that scraping laugh. "You cannot hurt us, primitive creatures. Want to bet?" Mi-young asked. She held up a device she had built from stolen Vulcan technology. "This is connected to your ship's power grid. One press of this button and this entire section loses life support." The squad leader's confidence wavered. "You would kill yourselves too." "We're already dead if we stay here," Do-Hyun said. "The difference is we get to choose how we die." For a moment, nobody moved. Then Sora made the choice for everyone. She grabbed a fire suppression control and activated it. Thick foam filled the corridor, blinding everyone. In the confusion, the humans fought their way past the guards and reached their ship. Mi-young was already working on the engines before the others were even aboard. "Can you get us out of here?" Do-hyun asked. "I don't know," Mi-young admitted. "The drive is still damaged, and I had to connect it to their power systems. It might work, or it might explode." "Better than staying here," Chan-woo said, taking his position at the pilot controls. Outside, more Velkin soldiers were running toward their ship. War Marshal Kethron's voice came over the communication system. "You cannot escape. Surrender now, and we will make your punishment less severe." "Tell him he can take his punishment and shove it," Taemin said. Do-hyun activated the communication system. "This is Captain Do-hyun. We're going home. Try to stop us." The ship's engines roared to life, but they sounded wrong. The hybrid human-Velkin technology was fighting itself. But it was working. Chan-woo piloted them out of the landing bay just as Velkin fighters began pursuing them. The alien ships were faster and more powerful, but they were also predictable. They flew in perfect formations and followed standard attack patterns. "They fight like machines," Chan-woo said, spinning their ship in a direction that no Velkin pilot would expect. "They've been winning for so long, they've forgotten how to adapt." Mi-young was routing power from every system she could find. "I'm pushing the engines past their limits. We have maybe 10 minutes before something breaks." "Will 10 minutes get us to hyperspace?" Do-hyun asked. "If we're lucky." More Velkin ships appeared ahead of them. The humans were trapped between two enemy fleets with nowhere to run. "Captain," Taemin said quietly, "I have an idea, but someone has to stay behind." Do-hyun looked at his navigator. "What are you thinking?" "Their ships depend on coordinated attacks. If someone disrupts their formation at the right moment, the others might escape." "No," Do-hyun said immediately. "We all go home, or none of us do." "Captain," Taemin said with a sad smile, "sometimes humans have to make sacrifices for what's right. Make sure Earth knows what happened here." Before anyone could stop him, Taemin transferred control of the navigation system to a separate pod. He ejected himself in a small escape craft right into the middle of the Velkin formation. The aliens were so surprised by this suicide attack that they broke formation to avoid hitting each other. In the confusion, Chan-woo pushed their ship through the gap and into hyperspace. As the stars stretched into lines of light, Do-hyun watched through the rear viewer as Taemin's small craft disappeared in a flash of weapons fire. Their friend was gone, but his sacrifice had saved them all. "He was a good man," Sora said quietly. "He was a human," Do-hyun replied. "That's what we do. We don't give up, and we don't leave each other behind if we can help it." The ship shuddered as the damaged engines fought to keep them in hyperspace. Mi-young worked frantically to keep everything running. "How long until we reach Earth?" Do-hyun asked. "If the engines hold together?" "About 6 weeks," Do-hyun looked at his surviving crew. They had escaped the most powerful empire in the galaxy, but they had paid a terrible price. Now they had to warn Earth about what was coming, because the Velkins would follow them home, and next time, they would bring their entire fleet. The next morning, guards came for them. Do-hyun and his crew were brought to an enormous hall filled with alien beings. The ceiling was so high that clouds floated near the top. Hundreds of different species sat in rows of seats, all watching the humans with curious eyes. At the front of the hall sat the Velkin High Council. These were the most powerful beings in their empire. Each one wore robes of different colors, and their armor gleamed with precious metals. In the center sat an ancient Velkin whose armor was covered in strange symbols. "I am High Counselor Veltar," the ancient alien said. His voice echoed through the huge hall. "You stand before the rulers of 300 worlds. Speak your names and the name of your world." Do-hyun stepped forward. Nari, their linguist, had worked all night with the ship's computer to understand the alien language better. She whispered translations in his ear when the words were difficult. "I am Captain Do-hyun. These are my crew members, Mi-young, Taemin, Nari, Jaewon, and Sora. We come from a planet called Earth." Murmurs filled the hall. The aliens spoke in many different languages, but the computer translated some of their words. Most were surprised that humans looked so much like some other species they knew. Others were amazed at how small and weak the humans appeared. War Marshal Kethron stood up. "High Counselor, these creatures crashed into our sacred convoy yesterday. They show no respect for our laws or our power. Tell us about your world," High Counselor Veltar commanded. "How many ships do you have? How many worlds do you control?" Do-hyun felt his heart sink. The truth would make humans look pathetically weak. But lying would be worse. We have one world, he said. Earth, we control no other planets. Yesterday was our first attempt at faster-than-light travel. The hall fell silent. Then alien voices rose in amazement and laughter. Some species had never heard of a civilization with only one planet. Others could not believe that humans had reached this far with such primitive technology. High Counselor Veltar raised his hand for silence. One world? And you dare to refuse our laws? We didn't refuse anything, Do-hyun said. We told you it was an accident. Ignorance is no excuse, War Marshal Kethran declared. The penalty for entering Velkan space without permission is submission or death. Another council member stood up. This one wore blue robes and had a kinder face. Perhaps we should hear their story completely before we decide their fate. Do-hyun looked at his crew. Sora was trying to record everything with her equipment. Jae-won was studying the different alien species around them. These might be the last humans to see this amazing sight. Our people have always been explorers, Do-hyun began. We built our first ship to reach the stars because we wanted to meet other thinking beings. We dreamed of finding friends among the stars. Friends? War Marshal Kethran made that scraping laugh again. There are no friends here. There are only rulers and subjects. That's not how we see the universe, Do-hyun replied. High Counselor Veltar leaned forward. Then how do you see it? Do-hyun thought carefully. His next words could decide humanity's future. We believe that all thinking beings have the right to be free. We believe that different species can work together and help each other. We believe that no one should have to bow down to anyone else just because they have bigger ships or more weapons. The hall erupted in shocked voices. Some aliens laughed at the foolish humans. Others seemed frightened by these strange ideas. A few looked interested. Dangerous thinking, War Marshal Kethran said coldly. Ideas like that could destroy the order we have built. Order built on fear is not real order, Do-hyun said. It's just bullying. Nari grabbed his arm and whispered urgently, Captain, you're making them angry. But Do-hyun couldn't stop now. On Earth, we learned that forcing others to obey you never works forever. Eventually, people always fight back. High Counselor Veltar stood up slowly. His ancient face was hard to read, but his voice was dangerous. You are either very brave or very stupid, human. Perhaps both, he looked around the hall. This creature suggests that our empire, which has lasted for 2,000 years, is wrong. I suggest that it could be better, Do-hyun said. Better? War Marshal Kethran's voice was full of rage. We have brought peace to 300 worlds. Peace through fear is not real peace, Wei Do-hyun replied. How many of those worlds joined you willingly? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Do-hyun could see some of the alien species looking uncomfortable. Not all of them had joined the Empire by choice. High Counselor Veltar studied Do-hyun for a long moment. You interest me, human. Your species is weak, your technology is primitive, and you have no allies. Yet you stand here and criticize the greatest empire in the galaxy. We criticize what we think is wrong, Do-hyun said. That's what thinking beings do. And what do you suggest we do with you? The High Counselor asked. Do-hyun looked at his crew one more time. Then he gave the answer that would change everything. Let us go home. We'll tell our people about you, and you can decide if you want to meet them as friends or enemies. But we won't kneel to you. We won't become your subjects, and we won't pay tribute to anyone. The hall fell completely silent. Every alien stared at the small group of humans who had just refused the most powerful empire in the galaxy. War Marshal Kethran broke the silence with a roar of anger. Impossible. No species has ever refused our offer. Then we're the first, Mi-young said quietly, but her voice carried in the silent hall. High Counselor Veltar sat down heavily. He looked older than before. In 2,000 years, no one has ever said no to us. Maybe it's time someone did, Taemin said. The council members began talking among themselves in urgent whispers. Some wanted to kill the humans immediately. Others were curious about these strange creatures who showed no fear. A few seemed to be thinking about what the humans had said. Finally, High Counselor Veltar spoke again. You have given us much to think about, humans. We will discuss your fate tonight. Guards returned them to their cells. As they were led away, Do-hyun heard alien voices arguing behind them. Some were angry, some were confused, and some seemed almost excited. The humans had done something that had never happened before in Velkan space. They had said no. In their cell that night, the crew sat quietly. They all knew they had probably signed humanity's death warrant, but none of them regretted it. Do you think we did the right thing? Sora asked. Do-hyun looked out the small window at the alien stars. We did the human thing. Sometimes that's the same as the right thing. Outside their cell, they could hear alien voices arguing late into the night. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would never be quite the same again. Captain Do-hyun watched the stars through the window of his ship. The Perseverance was not the biggest ship Earth had ever built, but it was the most important. Today they would test humanity's first faster-than-light drive. If it worked, humans could finally travel to other star systems. "Captain, all systems are ready," said Mi-young from her seat at the engineering station. She had spent 3 years building this drive. Her hands moved quickly over the controls, checking everything one more time. Taemin sat at the navigation controls. "Course set for Proxima Centauri, sir. It should take us about 4 hours to get there." Do-hyun nodded. "Begin the jump sequence." The ship started to hum. Energy built up in the drive core. Outside, the stars began to stretch into long lines of light. Then everything went wrong. "Captain," Mi-young shouted. "The drive core is overloading. I can't stop it." Red lights flashed all over the bridge. The ship shook so hard that Do-hyun had to hold onto his chair. Through the speakers, they could hear metal breaking somewhere in the engine room. "Emergency shutdown," Do-hyun ordered. "It's not working." Mi-young's voice was full of panic. "We're going into hyperspace, but not where we planned." The ship disappeared from normal space in a flash of bright light. When the shaking stopped, Do-hyun slowly opened his eyes. They were alive. The emergency lights were on and the air still worked. But something was very wrong. "Where are we?" he asked. Taemin looked at his screens with confusion. "I don't know, sir. The stars are all different. We're not near Proxima Centauri." Do-hyun looked out the window. Instead of empty space, he saw hundreds of massive ships. Each one was bigger than any building on Earth. They were black and covered in weapons, and they were all pointing at the Perseverance. "Oh no," Mi-young whispered. The biggest ship in front of them had strange writing on its side. It was easily 100 times bigger than their small Earth vessel. Bright lights suddenly appeared all around them as more ships moved into position. "Captain," Taemin said in a quiet voice, "I'm reading over 300 ships out there, and they're all much more advanced than anything we have." Do-hyun felt his heart beating fast. This was supposed to be a simple test flight. Now they were surrounded by an alien fleet in the middle of unknown space. A deep voice suddenly came through their communication system. The words were strange, but somehow they could understand them. The ship's computer was translating automatically. "Unknown vessel, you have violated sacred Velkan space. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed." Do-hyun looked at his crew. Mi-young was still trying to fix the damaged drive. Taemin was scanning the alien ships, his face pale. They were so far from home that no one on Earth even knew where they were. "This is Captain Do-hyun of the Earth vessel Perseverance," he said into the communication system. "We mean no harm. Our drive malfunctioned. We don't know where we are." There was a long silence. Then the alien voice spoke again, sounding surprised. "Earth? We have no record of this world. You will be brought aboard our command ship for questioning." Before Do-hyun could answer, a bright blue beam surrounded their ship. The Perseverance could not move. The alien ships were pulling them in with some kind of tractor beam. "Captain, what do we do?" Taemin asked. Do-hyun looked at his small crew. They were just 5 humans in a tiny ship, surrounded by hundreds of alien warships, but they were still alive, and that was something. "We do what humans have always done," he said. "We face whatever comes next, and we don't give up." As their ship was pulled toward the massive alien vessel, Do-hyun sent one last message to Earth. He knew it would take months to reach home, but maybe Admiral Hee-jin would get it eventually. "This is Captain Do-hyun. We have made first contact with an alien species called the Velkans. They have superior technology and numbers. We are being taken prisoner. Tell Earth to be ready. These aliens are not friendly." The message was sent just as their ship entered the landing bay of the Velkan command vessel. The bay was so big that their entire ship looked like a toy inside it. Alien soldiers were waiting for them. They were tall and covered in armor that looked like it was made of living metal. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but Do-hyun could see glowing red eyes watching them. "Power down your vessel and prepare to be boarded," the voice commanded. Mi-young looked at Do-hyun. "Captain, if they take our ship apart, they'll learn everything about Earth's technology. And if we resist, they'll kill us," Do-hyun replied. "We need to stay alive long enough to learn about them." The airlock opened and alien soldiers entered their ship. Up close, they were even more frightening. Each soldier was almost 7 feet tall and carried weapons that hummed with energy. "You will come with us," one of them said. Its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. As they were led through the alien ship, Do-hyun tried to remember everything he saw. The corridors were huge and filled with strange technology. Alien creatures walked past them, some in uniform, others in flowing robes. None of them looked human. They were brought to a large room where an alien in golden armor waited for them. This one was different from the soldiers. It was older and its armor had many decorations. When it spoke, its voice was calmer but still threatening. "I am War Marshal Kethron of the Velkan Empire. You have committed a crime against our people by entering our sacred space without permission." Do-hyun stepped forward. He was afraid, but he would not show it. "I am Captain Do-hyun. We did not mean to come here. Our ship had an accident." Kethran studied him for a long moment. "Your species is unknown to us. Your technology is primitive, yet you dare to speak to me as an equal." "Where I come from, all thinking beings are equal," Do-hyun said. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "How amusing. You will soon learn differently. Guards, take them to the holding cells. Tomorrow they will tell us everything about their world." As they were led away, Do-hyun caught Mi-young's eye. She nodded slightly. She understood. They were prisoners now, but they were still alive. And as long as they were alive, there was hope. The cell door closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Outside, an entire alien empire waited to decide humanity's fate.